We got a special show here today. Former Bears quarterback great Erik Kramer joining the show. We'll see if one day anybody can beat his records, but it won't be today. He's going to be talking to us about all things Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears on CHGO Bears Podcast starting right now. Welcome back to the CHGO Bears Podcast. We're excited to be here today. I am your host, Greg Braggs Jr. Alongside me is the one and only Jake Flannigan. That's right. You got the two meatballs today.
We're here.
Yeah, Hoag's on vacation. One day he will return to his humble abode here at CHGO Sports Studios, and Carm is going to come back here later this week, we hope, and wish him well. So
But we're going to have fun today.
yeah, we are going to definitely have fun today because we have a special guest joining us right now. Let's get into it. Chicago Bears legendary quarterback Erik Kramer joins the show. How you doing today, Eric?
Fantastic. Thank you guys for having me, or thanks for having me on the show. And in honor of the Dicka t-shirt I'm wearing here, I would more, instead of meatballs, call you guys Park Grabowskis.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, we are definitely the Grabowskis, meatballs. That's what Chicago's all about. And we're excited. I mean, this guy, everybody kind of knows me as the meatball, but this dude here, Jake, is sitting next to me, is as diehard as they come, as loyal as they come. And I know we're both really excited to talk to you here, Eric. And let's get into it because we've talked to you a couple times over the last couple years, and we keep asking you the question, like, is anybody ever going to break your records? You know, obviously, we cherish, your years here with the Bears, but we're kind of looking for the Bears to move into the next generation. And every year we feel like it might happen, and yet your records still hold true.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. I think if, I'm waiting for it to happen too, and I could care less if and when it happens. But I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later because, I think three reasons that stand out to me. One, Caleb Williams, though he was the first overall pick last year, didn't play like it. And the coaching staff that has been with the Bears for 2 or 3 or 4 cycles has not been what I believe this one will be. And the third part, and maybe the most critical one, is the offensive line. And not just, I love what Ryan Poles has done these last few years, and especially this year, because of the interior part of the offensive line. And then they go get Ozzy Trapillo in the second round. And, it could be a starting left tackle. And I love the direction the team is going. I know it's all in the off season, but here we are still in the off season. So you got to talk about something to look forward to. And I think that, the addition of Ben Johnson and the effect that he's going to have on Caleb Williams, you're getting 2 for the price of 1 in Ben Johnson. So I think he's going to help bring out the best of Caleb Williams that, for argument's sake, has been untapped so far.
Well, let's get into that, and then I'll let Jake jump in. Obviously, you had an up-close look at Ben Johnson last year, obviously being a former Detroit Lion as well. We won't hold that against you. You certainly had some great years there as well. And so you're there on the sidelines for the playoff games and their run leading up to the playoffs. And what was that like for you to see Ben Johnson up close on the sidelines for such high leverage, high octane games, and seeing kind of how he conducts himself and how he works with the players and everything that came with it, calling plays in those games?
Well, I didn't get to see, I've never met Ben Johnson. I've never gotten to see him, up close and personal as a coach and throughout practices in what ultimately leads up leads to the execution level during the game. But it's no coincidence that with his arrival and Detroit, that they got to where they are now and will most likely stay there. And I think the effect that I've seen him have, if you look at, let's just take Jared Goff. So coming from the Rams, he was a throwaway that Detroit didn't look at as one. And he revived his career to the point now where you can easily say he's a top 4 or 5 quarterback in the NFL. And then he had talent around him, just like the Bears do. But being able to maximize it. And when you decide to run the ball, there's nothing the other team can do to stop it. And then the play action game that comes along with that. And the execution level was surgical. So the guy who designed all that is now in Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, last year I can remember when Ryan Poles was looking at what quarterback to select. You know, he said he's looking for, there's 2 different types, artists and surgeons. Yeah. 2 different types of quarterbacks, and he kind of labeled Caleb Moore as an artist type, but I think trying to get him to transition into becoming a surgeon, I think, is going to be important.
That's true. Do you remember which credentialed media member asked that question?
Yeah, he was really good looking.
Yeah, it was you. It was a good question. It was a great response. You're right. And Eric, you mentioned too, like just there's always optimism when you're in the off season at this point. But I think I can speak for a lot of Bears fans and say this may be the most optimistic we've been in over 7 years, for a season to begin. And I think in large part it's due to Ben Johnson. There's something that I'm hoping to dig into today, and I'll start with you on your take here, but the explosive plays that he was able to call up, and I know it's a big part of that is personnel and situation and just time on task with your teammates and building that. But how quickly do you think he can flip the script for where the Bears were at from an explosive play standpoint from last year to this coming season?
I think it's going to be instantaneous. Because I think he knows the value of a run game. That's why there's 3 new starters on the interior of the offensive line. And they're all talented in both facets, run and pass. That's why they spent a 2nd-round pick on Ozzie Trapillo. And you've already got, who's the guy they drafted out of Tennessee at right tackle? So they're going to dominate up front in the run game. And it was no coincidence that Jared Goff led all NFL quarterbacks last year in play-action pass attempts. So that's what's going to happen here. It's a formula that is proven, and it doesn't just show up because Ben Johnson showed up. It's because of what he believes in and has a vision for, and then goes out and executes. And so you can't bypass the offseason. And Ryan Poles literally has hit about, if this was baseball, his batting average right now in the offseason is about 600, maybe 700. So I think the acquisitions they've got weren't just random. They were specific. And I'm just, I think that's going to definitely translate into exactly what you're talking about in I think an instantaneous level of precision that a defense is going to have to account for.
Yeah, I mean, and when we talk about some of the acquisitions, and maybe we'll get into some of those specific players here in a few minutes, but some of the biggest acquisitions, along with Ben Johnson, is his coaching staff. You bring in Antoine Randall follows Ben Johnson over from Detroit. You bring in a guy like Eric Bieniemy, a running backs coach that has, a very impressive resume, and somebody that came back in the day with Minnesota Vikings and Adrian Peterson, and Al Harris, a former DB of the Packers.
Dennis Allen.
Yeah, Dennis Allen, who certainly had some great days as a D coordinator. So I'm just curious, how much do you think Ben Johnson learned from Dan Campbell on how to build a coaching staff and how to resonate with his players? Because we all saw in Hard Knocks, and we've seen over the last 3 years, how much the Lions seem to play together and fight for each other and play with a certain level of intensity. And it really feels like it's because of the coaching staff challenging them a certain way and knowing the players, the trust they have to the coaches, because some of them have been there and done that before.
I think you have nailed every facet of the fact that Ben Johnson has learned what he does over a lifetime of coaching, not just from Dan Campbell, has come in with his own ideas about how to do things as well. And I think that he is experienced through hard work himself and expecting and demanding that of others. So it's not just like he fell down from the heavens and voila, he's going to start calling plays and away we go. But I think that how to build it from the ground up and the expectation level, I think the coordination between the head coach, not only in his staff, but the personnel department, who at the top there is Ryan Poles. And I think that has been, to me, a very good sign of what's to come. It's kind of a blueprint of what we've seen going on in Detroit now for a few years.
Yeah.
This guy is a former bricklayer. We talk a lot about bricks. But a lot of times when it comes to competition, and especially at the highest level, I always feel like it's like a hammer and a nail situation, right? So like when you were playing, especially like your guys' best, year back in the day, most prolific year on offense, not only offensively but defensively, the aggressiveness to kind of take it to the other team as the hammer and make them the nail versus vice versa. Like, how important is that from a mentality standpoint as a team?
It's huge. And, I remember Ron Turner, our quarterback coach, offense coordinator, he'd come in and he'd say, look, we're going to run the ball a minimum of 35 times. So the 4 and 5 yard power O's in the first half are going to turn into 7, 8, 9, and 10 yard power O's in the second half. And so when you have that mentality, then everything you do that comes off of that works also. And the play action game that comes off of power O is huge. And I don't care what zone they're in, because when you run the ball effectively, it's outside, it's man to man. And so that's where I think, having a clear foundation of what you're going to do both offensively and defensively, but as we're talking offensive right now, a clear foundation for what you're going to base everything on is huge and crucial. And that's the reason they went out and got Ben Johnson.
And I think this is kind of a concern for some Bears fans because, obviously running the ball is so important in what Ben Johnson's foundation is. As much as the explosive plays are there, it's how they run the ball. But they had Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, who obviously Bears fans are very familiar with, whereas the Bears, they have DeAndre Swift, former Lion, who did play under Ben Johnson once upon a time when they, I believe that year, were 11th in rushing with Jamal Williams as kind of the dual back system there. But the Bears have DeAndre Swift, Roschon Johnson, and then they just drafted this kid, out of Rutgers, Kyle Monangai, who is intriguing. I mean, he, last 2 years has had over 1,200 rushing yards on Rutgers, so that has to speak for something in a tough conference. But how much confidence do you have that while Ben Johnson is going to emphasize the run game, that they can get somewhere near, anything the Lions were doing last year with the success they had on the ground?
Well, I believe they're going to do it without a doubt. And so it's not the running back. Or running backs. It's the commitment and the detail that happens up front, including your tight ends. And it's nice to have shifty, tough, guys, like Jahmyr Gibbs and, tough interior guys like David Montgomery, who obviously was with the Bears to begin with. But I think that mentality that comes with what you're going to do up front, running the ball, those are pieces that you fit in up front first and running back when you can. And I think that the Bears are definitely solid enough at running back position to do everything they want to do with the running game.
Well, hey, we're going to take a quick time out here, and when we come back, we just got a few more minutes with Eric, and I got some different questions, and I know Jake does as well. So we appreciate you jumping on with us. Everybody hit the like button for Erik Kramer as he's dishing out some optimism here today, which is great. When we come back, we'll talk about kind of the difference in last year and breaking down what we were to expect to this year, because it obviously is very encouraging to hear him this excited. So give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Hang on tight with us, and we'll be back right after this. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. It's a one-stop shop for all your cannabis needs, and all your favorite dispensaries are all over the city, Jake. They're in the suburbs, in Champaign. They're in the city, in Wrigleyville, right down the street from the Marquee, so you can go there and enjoy a Cubs game as well. And if you're a pro, we've got you covered with over 100 strains on the menu and new ones added daily, expertly curated, and that's just what they're all about with their Cresco and Florical, incredibly quality products. So visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% your first 3 online purchases. Enter the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day, only for 21 or older or medical card holders. For existing users, use the promo code CHGO50 for 50% off one Cresco Labs brand item.
And that sounds great. You do that, you get the vibes going, you chill, and you ask any Chicagoan what the best weekend of the summer is, 9 times out of 10 they're going to say it's the Windy City Smokeout, no question, and that is back July 10th through the 13th.
That's right.
We're talking 4 full days of country music, ice-cold drinks, and an award-winning barbecue that your stomach can handle. It's all of that and more. So does it get more summer than that? I don't think so. Seriously, though, nothing beats an outdoor concert in July. Nope. And if you haven't grabbed your tickets yet, Thursday and Friday are still available. Country's biggest stars like Bailey Zimmerman, Old Dominion, personal favorites, Co Wetzel, Dylan Gossett, they're all lighting up the stage this year. So don't miss out on the best weekend of the summer. Grab your tickets for Thursday and Friday now at WindyCitySmokeout.com.
All right, we're back here with Erik Kramer breaking down the upcoming season with training camp just a few days away. The countdown is officially on. We were talking about the running game before the break, and I know you said you had a stat for us.
Last year, to your point, Eric, Lions had 29 rushing touchdowns. Is that right? That's what I'm seeing here?
Yeah.
Is that right? Bears had 13. 6 from Swift, 6 from Roschon, and 1 from Herbert before he was traded. Like, that says everything right there. Maybe they're not going to hit 29, right? But if we can get in the 20s.
Don't forget the one Doug Kramer had. Oh, no, he didn't have it. So.
Yeah, well, that's what's funny is, with the Doug Kramer, fumble and everyone losing their mind, now you bring in a coach who loves to throw the offensive line into, certain red zone situations. So, I think it's trusting Ben Johnson and whatever he wants to roll with. If Darnell Wright's going to roll back in the pocket and throw a touchdown, I think we'll all be for it. But I'll certainly take those 70 touchdowns the Lions scored last year.
Hey, every football player is an athlete.
Yeah, 1,000%. And, they, Ben Johnson at minicamp had, or at OTAs had offensive linemen running routes and catching and basically giving their audition on who's going to be the one to get the touchdown. So I know they're all getting competitive with that. It is very encouraging to hear how optimistic you are with the vision of what they're doing here this year, with obviously Ben Johnson coming in with his resume and everything he has from a knowledge standpoint and combining that with Caleb Williams. And I'll take some fans back. We have a clip to play because when you came on our show last year, you had a certain quarterback that you were really high on, and I have to call out our chat because, we're very tribalistic in nature here in Chicago. I'm sure you're certainly aware, but you took a little bit of heat at the time for a certain quarterback that you were very high on. Here's the clip. Let's play it. Then we'll give you your flowers afterwards.
I think with the number 1 overall pick, you've got great options, better options, in fact, than they had last year. And because there are a lot more teams in need of a quarterback, which I believe the Bears are too, and everybody's talking about Caleb Williams, and Matt, that may be the guy. In my opinion, he better be so much better than Bo Nix that it's like not even close. Because for what you could get for that number one pick, that's not even close. So there could be 3 number one picks that come out of that number one pick. I think Bo Nix is a special player, leader, you name it. I saw him. He was part of that Elite 11 group when he came out of high school. And I happened to be down there coaching that when he was there. And he stood out back then. And I don't know. I think he's a guy that went from one college system at Auburn to another college system at Oregon and actually got better. Did he really get better, or did the people around him were better, the coaching staff was better? I kind of think it's the latter, and I think that was him already.
Listen, we're saving the tape here because people are having a reaction to it, and I like it. We'll see what happens.
And what happened is that Bo Nix had the second most passing touchdowns by a rookie quarterback in NFL history, only second to Justin Herbert. So
with how many?
29.
Which I'll remind everyone is the amount of touchdowns, the most touchdowns ever thrown by any quarterback in Chicago Bears history, and he's joining us right now. Eric Kramer, there are your flowers. I mean, I think we're all happy with Caleb Williams here in Chicago, and I think we can see a bright future ahead, especially with Ben Johnson, but wanted everyone here because you know what? There's a term kids say, keep that same energy, and you deserve it because – you know, you caught some heat for that, but at the same time, this kind of just goes to show you how much, yes, you played the quarterback position. So I think fans need to show a little respect and understand how much you understand and know this position and can project certain guys. So again, going, hey, we don't have Bo Nix, fine with that. But to hear you as optimistic as you are about Caleb Williams and combine that with everything you tried to tell us last year, that gives me a real sense of excitement here going forward.
Well, I appreciate the flowers and I appreciate the setup. And one of the factors, too, that I think helped Bo Nix was his head coach, offensive coordinator, and quarterback coach in Sean Payton. And now you put Caleb Williams in that same scenario with Ben Johnson, and I think you're going to see this situation turn around. And don't get me wrong, Caleb didn't have a bad year. I mean, he only threw how many touchdowns? 5 or 6? Interceptions?
Yes.
And so, his decision-making to me was pretty good despite the house was burning down all around him. Yeah. And I think just how he's going to mature, I think, as a person from year 1 to year 2 is, again, a factor of who is at the top of the food chain here with the team, meaning Ben Johnson. And I think he's just going to soak it up for however many years he's a Bear and continue to get better. And this is going to be a huge, I think, productive jump for Caleb from year 1 to year 2.
Well, we're talking so much about coaches and the impact they have on the success of your offense and your quarterback. Now you turn the tables on the Lions, and they lose Ben Johnson, they lose Aaron Glenn, they lose Antoine Randall, they lose a lot of different coaches from their coaching staff, and not to mention they lost 2 of their vital interior offensive linemen. Their center unexpectedly retires. So how much, right? And how much can we expect any kind of a step back from the Lions here this year, or is that because they're kind of already kind of figured out who they are they still going to be able to figure this out with all those missing pieces?
I don't think so. That would not be my first guess. So this is what happens, is that when you get really good, here come all the predators to pick off the tree. And so, can they maintain and even get better than they were, given the fact that they lost players? And remember, Hayden Hutchinson, is he 100% yet? Who knows? And they still don't have an opposite edge rusher for him. And offensively, like you said, they've lost some good talent, and coaching staff-wise has been decimated. So here again, I mean, you're going to see a team that won, I forget how many years ago, won a game or two, and then have now become the standard in the NFC. And can they maintain that success given the fact of what just took place? Like, their house got robbed. And so can they maintain what they've spent the last several years building? That's a good question. Because I think of the 4 teams in the NFC North, they've had the worst offseason.
Yep.
I've never had my house robbed, but if I did, it would certainly just turn my life upside down, no doubt. I would question everything.
Yeah. I've never been happier to hear someone's house got robbed.
There's a shock factor, I think, and I've never had my house robbed either, but there's a shock factor, I think, to you have to account for. Like, okay, now that the dust has settled, how are we going to get back to that and even exceed what we were on? Well, you have to have that mentality.
Well, it's funny because we have a couple Lions fans in our chat that are here every day. For whatever reason, they like to troll us here watching a Bears show every day, but we appreciate their support. And when they showed the Bo Nix clip, Chim was lecturing the whole chat about how knowledgeable you were. And then when you said the Lions are going to take a step back, now he's saying, no, he changed his mind. You're no longer knowledgeable. So this is how the wind blows with us fans here.
And now I can't get out of my head having your house robbed. I'm thinking about my car. I had my car broken into. I lost my golf clubs and like some of my favorite CDs, and that wrecked me for a while. And I still think that's my excuse why I'm not a good golf player. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Right to my point. Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you got anything else before we let Eric go?
I'd say this, like, your route to the NFL is the polar opposite as Caleb Williams' route to the NFL, right? Like, you did what you did in Atlanta to get a shot, and then you went for the freezing north to prove it, and then you got that opportunity in Detroit and just, put it all together there in 91, if I'm not mistaken. And then, you had some setbacks here injury-wise, but you followed it up that following year with the most prolific season by a Bears quarterback in history. So my question to you is this. Any player that's on the Bears roster, any player in the NFL, any player in any sport that goes through something like that where people are questioning them getting back to a level or being even better after injuries, what would you say is necessary for them to do that?
Well, I think there's one gene that always works, and that is determination and resilience and those type of qualities that have nothing to do with talent and has everything to do with maximizing who you are as a person. And I think that's what a lot of people over time, even today, don't give enough enough gravity to the need and the necessity to build up who you are in emotionally, in mentally, not just physically. And I think that's really what it boils down to. There's a gentleman that he's retired now, but Kevin Wildenhouse was a psychologist for many, many years. And I got together with him when I was in Detroit, and he basically became the guy. He was the glove that all the other fingers fit into. And even when I went to Chicago, I would fly him in to several games, or back in the cassette tape days, he would make some. And I would listen to those before the game or the night before the game. And I think that what you just asked was a factor of all that. And there's no amount of 40s you can run that kind of prepares you for that. And I think if you know challenges are coming, and they always are, that the way to do that, the way to prepare for that is just what I outlined.
Yep. And I think one of the big things that Ben Johnson talked about was body language that he wanted to see Caleb Williams improve on. So when you talk about the mental aspect of the game, how was that transition for you to be able to command that huddle, get the respect of the players in that, your teammates in that locker room, and be a leader of men in a lot of ways? Like, that transition for you, how did that go?
Well, I think so. In '94, that's when I came to the Bears, and I started out. And as a team, I think we were 2-2 or something, and not playing all that way, but not playing all that well. And in particular, I wasn't. And then I get hurt for a few games, and then come back and didn't play special there. And then Steve Walsh comes in, and though while not pretty looking, he was more than capable at getting the job done in terms of reading coverages all the way through. And watching him do that on the sideline, it allowed me to take, while I was internally hurting, at the same time, it allowed me to learn, because it was a completely different offense than what I was used to in Detroit. And so I think just time is what it takes. And that's why I think with someone like Caleb, having, a coach / mentor, teacher, and other ways that Ben Johnson and other people in that organization will positively affect Caleb's growth as a person, then I think you're going to see the body language is just a factor of that. It's how you perceive yourself and how you want yourself to, fully mature. Out of that comes good body language and good execution and all the little details that go along with that.
Yep. I mean, when when we had you on last year, you were promoting your book. I bought it. Obviously read through it, where you talk about having your home team, right? And and this year the Bears, bringing it to a football aspect, obviously where you were going with it was a much deeper level of your personal life and keeping things close to the vest with people you can trust. And I've certainly done my best to do that in my life. But when you talk about on the football field, trying to build Caleb's home team, so to speak, bringing in Ben Johnson, JT Barrett, a former quarterback who's been through a lot in his career, Antoine Randall, obviously, he even played quarterback at one point in his career. Declan Doyle comes over from Sean Payton that you talked about earlier, and then they bring in Case Keenum, a veteran quarterback who's, had a lot of success in college, been on a lot of different teams. So I think the Bears are on the right track. Now it all comes down to Caleb really applying himself and locking into what I can imagine is a very complicated playbook. So excited to see it all. I'm very, you're giving me a lot of optimism. I've tried to do my best, Eric, to not, like, every year I overhype the crap out of this team, and then they let me down, and everyone's yelling at me that I said too much and I jinxed them. So I'm trying to stay level grounded. So you're certainly not helping with that, because I trust you, and I know you've seen the lines up close, and I know you continue to follow the Bears. So I'm excited to see what the Bears can do in this new generation with Ben Johnson. So
should we say this? Are you ready to say this, Eric? When the Bears are in the playoffs, so this is the opposite of what Braxton, when the Bears are in the playoffs, will you join us again, because Caleb has broken your regular season records, and we'll talk about how the Bears can win a playoff game this year? How about that?
I don't see why I wouldn't do that. And so, yes, the Bears will be in the playoffs. Whether he breaks any records or not is immaterial to me, because if he does, that means he'll be doing a lot right. And so I couldn't be happier if that were the case.
Yeah, well, we're excited for it, and you're obviously welcome here anytime, and we've got tailgates for every home game. You got a full invitation to drop in for any of those, and obviously we'll catch up with you down the road. But we appreciate all your time here today, and enjoy the rest of your summer. Keep working on that golf game, and we'll catch up with you here real soon.
Sounds great. Take care, fellas.
Yeah, you too. That's Erik Kramer, everyone. Appreciate him joining us. We've got a lot more to get to here on CHGO Bears Podcast. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button. Shout out to Jake for sitting in here today. Second time this week in the chair. Steven here back where he belonged. No, I'm kidding.
No, okay.
Tony got to start laughing. No, I'm kidding. Steven did a great job yesterday. So shout out to everybody kind of, chipping in and pulling from the same rope here on CHGO Bears. So we'll get back to it. We're going to take a quick timeout for
when we come back, I'll have another stat about explosive plays.
I like it. So 2 minutes. Hang with us. We'll see you on the other side. Finances can be messy and confusing. Monarch Money acts like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control so you can stop earning and start growing. Don't just manage your money. Start building your wealth with 50% off your first year with our listeners. Without clear financial picture, financial dreams can feel out of reach. Monarch makes managing money simple, even for busy lives. Track your spending, savings, and investments effortlessly so you can focus on what matters most, making your biggest life goals a reality. Track shared and individual accounts, set goals together, and keep money check-ins drama-free. So get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code CHGO at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code CHGO.
You know what, Bragg? As you manage your money, you can go on yourself a little trip out of town.
That's right.
And the big thing on that is packing toiletries. And a part of that is Mando's 4-in-1 acidified cleansing bar, their shampoo, their face wash, their body wash, and their deodorant all in one bar, and it simplifies the whole hygiene routine for your trip and your team on the travel. It saves space in your bag. Mando's sweat control deodorant stick is key. It saved me here, in an instance. It's going to save me when we're on our trip as well.
That's right.
So that's what you have to do. And really, Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. So there's a special offer for listeners. New customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. And you know what that is? It's code CHGO at shopmando.com. Shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. So please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
All right. Welcome back.
Fresh.
Neither one of you looking up.
I've got Mando on. I'm feeling good.
Welcome back to the CHGO Bears Podcast. Hit the like button. No laughing about what I just did. I see a lot of people talking about training camp tickets. We'll get to that here in a little bit. I have some thoughts about that, as it's always kind of chaos for all us Bears fans trying to get to Hallis Hall every year, which is tough. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I know you said you had a stat about another explosive stat for us.
Right. I had to write it down. So big plays, which are 20-yard plays or greater, whether they're rushing or receiving plays last year. The Lions had 76 total big plays, 20-plus more plays. Ask me how many the Bears had.
This is interesting.
Ask me.
How many?
47.
Yeah. And, where did that rank? Do we know where that ranked?
No idea.
Because, I was pretty sure, I think I saw a stat that they had quite a bit over 20-yard plays, the Bears did. So maybe they are on the right track. At least that shows, I think what that shows a little bit of is that they have the personnel to create explosive plays, and now it comes down to the coaching staff to try to get as many as they can out of it.
I kind of look at it differently. I look at it where a lot of those bigger plays may have occurred in garbage time potentially.
That's fair.
And I don't know how that all kind of equates to when the game is still, within reach as far as a win. But we're talking about almost a 30 explosive play difference from the Lions last year versus the Bears. And I'm not expecting the Bears to reach that number this year in year one with Ben Johnson. But let's just say they can get 17 more of those plays per year. That's one of those per game. And if you think about a 20-plus yard play per game, that's going to extend a drive. It may get you an opportunity to be in field goal range. Adds another 3 points. It may extend a drive that you now score a touchdown. That's another 6 points. In all those games that we hope that they're going to be in, leading or coming back or tied, that 3 to 6 points may be the difference between a win or a loss in those games that we need them to win if they're going to be a successful team and make the postseason. So, that's something we have to watch, and we know he's going to be committed to that. But is the personnel going to be ready? And that, I think, sets us up well for what we want to talk about, which is those running backs, those receivers, those tight ends. Are they of enough quality to get us where we need to go?
Yeah, absolutely. And Steven kind of brought this article up yesterday. I saw some Bears fans talking about it this morning that certainly had Bears fans somewhat offended. It seems like, all these outlets know that if they trigger Bears fans in a certain way, they're going to talk about the other teams, but they make sure they stick a little knife in the Bears side because the fans will eat it up and get the content engagement that they're looking for. So it seems like they got us hook, line, and sinker, but, give us a little peek behind the curtain on what that was, Steven.
Yeah, ESPN does this article every single year where they rank every single team in the NFL's skill position players. So that's running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Last season, the Bears ranked 6th on this list. This season, they rank 25th.
Wow.
Now, I looked over this, and I'm like, okay, so the main loss that we have so far is Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
We go out, we had Colston Loveland, we had Burden, Olamide Zacceaus, and yet we dropped 19 spots. I can't see any scenario. There's 24 teams with a better set of offensive skill position players than the Bears.
So this is just running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers. So
Correct.
You're not taking into account your offensive line upgrades, and you're not
Correct.
taking into account the quarterback position. Because I would have thought the drop would have been because they were so high on Caleb coming in, and then last year being so up and down, that changing their perspective. But you're telling me that it's just the skill position, so that's a pretty wide gap to fall to.
And I think from reading that, it's like you treat it like you would have an average quarterback in the NFL and an average offensive line, which last year the Bears had both or worse. So this year we want to have an above-average quarterback and an above-average offensive line, but that does not matter in how they're assessing skill positions. But I do think that is somewhat disrespectful to DJ Moore. I think that's definitely not being bullish on Rome Odunze. And I also think it's disrespectful to Cole Kmet, who after the season is likely going to have the most receiving touchdowns by a tight end in Bears history behind only Mike Ditka. So all those things I think need to be considered. Plus, DeAndre Swift is not exactly someone that people are saying is an elite running back in the league, but with what he'll do with what the tools that we have, I understand why, because of this list, he's maybe not being factored as a real weapon, but that's for him to prove this year.
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of where it is. Now, do I think that's – we'd have to go through the other 25 teams to really pick nits through this, Steven. You had a thought?
Yeah, I mean, the first team ranked ahead of them is New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, this list is BS.
It is. I don't know how you could rank the Saints. I'll say they have one position group that I could confidently say is better than the Bears, and that's running back, and they're one deep there. Now two maybe with Devin Neal, but that's also a dart throw. Okay, Alvin Kamara is a great running back. He's also 30. So that's the age cliff of the NFL for running backs. Okay, and then their wide receivers. Chris Olave, great wide receiver, ended last season with a concussion. Didn't get a full season. I think he missed like something around the 5 games or so. They're one deep at wide receiver. Behind him, Rashid Shaheed, I believe it was a torn ACL that ended his season last year. How are we going to say that you'd rather have that group right now than the Bears' young, talented crop of wide receivers, tight ends, and then what we might get at running back, which is the weak point of the 3?
Yeah, and I think that's just one example, and if we went down the list, we probably could find a few more. But ultimately, I do think, if I tried to look on the other side of the coin, is this Bears team has to prove themselves. And while DJ Moore has shown that he can get 1,400 yards receiving with different types of quarterbacks, he's played under Sam Darnold, having Sam Darnold throw him the ball. He's had, PJ, who is our backup quarterback that played in Carolina, and we cut him. He played in Carolina as well. Steven will help me out, but PJ Walker, right?
Yeah.
And then, obviously Justin Fields and then Caleb Williams last year. So I think DJ has proven that he can be a top-level talent wide receiver. But Rome Odunze still got to prove himself. We can project him all we want as a guy that can be a top-line wide receiver, but he's got to prove it. Luther Burden's a rookie. Colston Loveland's a rookie. I think we see the upside, and we're certainly excited about how this all going to come together. And if we're not going to include how Ben Johnson can utilize these guys, and we can only go off of what they are and what their resumes show. And then obviously DeAndre Swift took a step back. You can blame that on the offensive line. You can blame that on Shane Waldron, and I'd be right there with you. And Eric Kramer obviously thinks that, the new coaching staff is going to be able to get much more out of them. But ultimately, these guys got to prove it. So, yes, it's clickbait. Yes, it's rage bait. But as much as we can be triggered by it and we can defend and project things, we were talking about yesterday, worst-case scenarios, because we always talk about, well, if everything goes right, this is what's going to happen with this guy, and this guy. But ultimately, the Bears got to prove it. And that's where I continue to be at all offseason, as I am so excited for this year. I am so optimistic that this could be a real turnaround. But we've done this so many times, and this has nothing to do with Ben Johnson. That has nothing to do with these guys that just came in. But ultimately, this organization has to stop. We all have to stop talking, and they have to just start proving it.
They do.
And stop with this where we have this expectation. These guys got to set a new standard of being a winning organization. Starts with the players, starts with the coaches.
It does. The thing that is still resonating with me is that I don't like this list. And it's because of this. It goes against everything that I feel like I stand for as a sports fan, as a football fan, as a Bears fan, and that's that everything is connected. It's a collective effort on game days to get a win. You earn a win or you earn a loss together. You don't do that individually. When you get to the end of the season and you see stats piled up for certain players, that's great. Sometimes that's a big indication of success. But sometimes it's just an indication that, a player is very good, but they're on a team that isn't that good, and that does happen around the NFL. So I don't like this list, but I do understand it, and everything you just said, it's true. We don't have a stockpile of proven weapons at those three positions.
Yep.
Outside of DJ Moore, I think he's the one. But what we do have is hope for, I think, high-level Rome, Loveland, Burden as those future weapons.
Sure.
And if they develop into that, that means when we're in our window here and that continues to open for those players and it may start to close for some others, that we're going to be just in the right spot.
It's two different conversations.
It is.
What they can project to be now under Ben Johnson and what their resumes currently are. And a lot of guys that were on the team last year had their resumes affected by Shane Waldron and a bad offensive line and a non-existent run game and a rookie quarterback that had an up and down year. So I am right there with you. I think all these guys now with Ben Johnson and everything they have with this coaching staff and this offensive line, but they're not included in what this ranking is. I get it. It certainly is disrespectful. It's poking the bear, no pun intended. But, and I think it was Bill Barnwell that somebody said in the chat that wrote this article. Bill always knows how to get a rise out of Bears fans. But you look at last year with Keenan Allen, a future Hall of Famer, DJ Moore, going into last year, hadn't had a down year yet.
Yeah.
Rome Odunze, everybody was really high on. He hadn't had a, kind of middle line. I'm not going to say it was a down year for Rome Odunze as a rookie, but it wasn't like an explosive rookie year like we saw out of the rookie out of Jacksonville or Malik Neighbors or any of that. Brian Thomas obviously had a big year. So, and then DeAndre Swift had a down year last year. Cole Kmet had a down year last year. So everybody was affected by this, and so now it pushes you down. Now, were they pushed down too far?
Why?
Yeah, probably.
All the things that aren't factored into this list mainly is why they didn't.
Right.
So
yeah.
But Jake, you brought up the wide receivers. They have three very, very high upside wide receivers right now. Two of them being very young as well. What about the tight end room, though? For me, the Bears have one of the best tight end rooms in the NFL. The only one I could confidently say is better is the Baltimore Ravens, who have Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. I mean, outside of that, Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland, they have a very good chance of being better than the Steelers with Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth. They have a chance of being better than the Vikings, who have T.J. Hockenson, and people don't talk about a lot. Josh Oliver, who's an elite run blocker. And even the Chiefs, with Travis Kelce being close to the end of his career, and then also Noah Gray. For me, the Bears tight end room is the top three, no doubt about it in my mind, tight end room in the NFL, on top of the wide receivers you already mentioned.
Yeah. But that, again, is a projection of what they can do under Ben Johnson, and I'm with you. And so somebody said it. If you read the article, Sweet Bippy said it. If you read that article, it seems like it's more reflecting on the 2024 season rather than projecting the 2025 season. And I'm with you. And that's where Hendrick says, well, where is Keenan Allen now? Well, he hasn't been signed by anybody. But again, another guy that's a product of your resume getting knocked down because everybody's resume on the Bears last year got knocked down because of an abysmal 10-game losing streak.
This list has made me so upset. I don't want to talk about this list anymore. I don't enjoy the spirit of it.
I know.
It's really got me.
We go from Erik Kramer and all that optimism.
That was great.
And now we have to deal with the rage bait. And we took the bait, and that's fine. It's a talking point. It's the off season. I know a lot of people that are tuned into our show are like, man, I can't wait till training camp starts because we're just doing these, quote unquote filler episodes. I would hope that people think with Erik Kramer joining us today that this is a level above a filler episode, but we're all with you. We cannot wait for training camp either. We're going to have some great coverage for you guys. We're going to be doing post-practice shows every day at training camp for the Bears, preseason, post-game shows. We'll have pre-game shows. We are going full speed ahead this year. We're going to have so much fun content for you guys, so we're excited to get there. So we appreciate every single one of you guys bearing with us here during the dog days of summer.
I know we want to hit about trying to get training camp tickets.
Yeah.
But let's do an exercise here. Let's rotate here. Steven's going to name some of those weapons that they're not very high on this list. Name those players one by one. Bragg's going to give his reaction whenever he'd see a big play in training camp, down the field to whoever, and then I'll do the next one. Let's go. Go say a player.
Give me Roma Dunze.
Go.
Woo!
I need
hit
to do
another
that.
one. Hit another player.
Let's go with Cole Kmet.
Boss. Dog.
We're going to be seeing a lot of this.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's a dog. He's one of the toughest players the Bears have had in a long, long time. Doesn't miss a game. I mean, remember a couple years ago when he told that story, he was like, he was hurt and could have sat out, and he refused to miss that game. I'm excited for him and Jalen Johnson because they've been through it, and last year there was some very high expectations that they certainly fell short of, and honestly, no one – Cairo's been on the team a long time too, for that matter, but those guys in particular, they've been through a lot. Last year was so hard. Cole would come into studio. You could see how much it was wearing on him. And so as much as we all hope as fans that we can have a fun year that we can enjoy, I'm really rooting for those guys to have a year they deserve because they've really put in the sweat equity and been through some really tough battles with this organization.
I care about that too for them, but I care more about myself and for us to enjoy game days. And that's why you can tell I'm probably a little too hyped. I probably just had someone turn down their car stereo when they listen to this podcast because I yelled.
Yeah.
But I am so pumped to just have those visceral reactions to big plays, whether it be in training camp, whether it be in preseason. It's especially during the regular season when you get a bomb to Rome, when you get DJ catching something over the middle and then just turning that in of those yards after the catch into a big play. Swift just finds a big hole, opens it up.
Yep.
We're gonna be just watching that TV. I can't wait.
Yep. And I see Chim Richels, who's again the resident Lions fan in our chat, who I certainly always give a lot of attention to. But he points out, he says the way you guys are talking about Zacceaus reminds me of when the Bears signed Byron Pringle. Talked like he was a big time player, just didn't get enough opportunity. And you know what? There's some pessimistic Bears fans. There's some rival fans that have pointed out how Bears fans, we did this with St. Brown, who was the wide receiver that we traded for from the Patriots that was a former first-round pick, and he didn't work out. Somebody brought up Gerald Everett last year, who we projected as a guy that could have been play well. And each time, not every time, but each time we seem to hype up some of these guys and project a certain way. And, hey, it's going to be better with Shane Waldron because he's not Luke Getsy, and he's going to understand all these different names.
N'Keal Harry.
N'Keal Harry, that's right. We've done this time and again, so I understand why he says that and why he's poking us and saying, hey, don't forget, you've done this before. I get it, but the coaching we've done it before, so I'll continue to preface this. but this coaching staff does feel different. Now, I personally have to get to training camp to see it for myself. We've had some different guys, at OTAs and minicamp here. Carm and Patrick Norton and Adam Hogue have seen it firsthand. We as fans got to wait for training camp in the preseason to really get a little bit of an idea. But ultimately, I do agree with the idiot in our chat, Chim. I'll still stand by it. They've got to prove it. It all makes sense. Coaching staff makes sense. The weapons they have on this team make sense. I think Caleb can be a great quarterback, in this league. But ultimately, they got to prove it, and that's a good thing. That's not like a negative threat. It's just there was a lot of talk last year. Rome and DJ and Keenan saying, who's going to be the first to get to 1,000? Well, none of them got to 1,000.
No, they didn't. DJ came a little short.
And that's not all their fault either. But it just goes back to let's everybody as a organization, as a fan base, let's all just put our heads down and get to work. Yeah. And hopefully the results are different than what Jim's saying, because ultimately it is a law of averages. Eventually they are going to get it right. And then, because I can remember Cardinal fans saying that the Cubs were never going to get it right. Oh, we do this every year. Yeah. Milton Bradley's going to work out. This guy's going to work out. That guy's going to. And then, 1 year it did work out. Yeah. And so, it's only a matter of time. So your days are numbered, Jim. But I understand where you're coming from.
Well, and I've said this before, too. After the Cubs won in 16 and then what happened to the Bears in 2018, I think that fan mentality in the city shifted from Cubs fans to Bears fans. Yeah. And I've felt that, where you're like, what's going to go wrong will go wrong, potentially. Yep. And it probably will. And really, we're waiting for them to switch that up, and this is the new opportunity, a clean slate. A fresh opportunity with that offensive line and new coaching staff.
Exactly. I mean, we talk so much about the skill guys. We talk so much about every year, how it all looks perfect. But it's the offensive line. It's the coaching staff. And once you get those things right, then all those other pieces are going to fall into place. And I've heard a lot of Bears fans say, well, last year, they shouldn't have drafted Rome Odunze. They should have drafted an offensive lineman. Okay, they built the team backwards. Yeah. They got all the skill guys first, and they didn't get the meat and potatoes. Yeah. But ultimately, it all came together to the point now where you have Ben Johnson and his coaching staff. You have a great offensive line led by Joe Thuney. Yeah. And so it should work out. But, only time will tell, and I'm certainly excited to see it play out. Steven, you got anything?
I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, it's wait and see it now. We've done the hype thing for way too long. It's time to actually see him put pen to paper, actually make it happen.
And I've been as guilty as anyone, right, in years past, right? Everybody knows. Anyone that knows has followed me. I doubled down, tripled down.
You still are hiding the Justin Fields fathead in the closet.
Maybe in the closet. It's fine. But listen, things change. Situations change. Caleb Williams is our quarterback. I obviously was rooting for his success last year. Now that we're into this season and all of these positive things have come into, Hallis Hall, obviously you have to forget about the past and move forward and be optimistic about what this can be. And what I want this to be is Caleb Williams now leading the Bears on that path towards becoming a Super Bowl team and then getting it done when they get there.
Certainly think that that's a realistic possibility, but got to be patient with it, too, especially in those first 4 games before the bye as things come together and chemistry and continuity are trying to be built. You got a whole new offensive line that looks really impressive, but they've never played alongside each other. You've got some rookies coming into the skill positions in Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. Yeah. They got to find their way into the offense. And then, obviously, Caleb Williams has to get comfortable with Ben Johnson's play calling and playbook, and Ben has to get comfortable with what Caleb does best. So I think there is going to be a process in all of this of them trying to figure everything out. And if that means they got to take some ugly wins, let's hope they're ugly wins where they got to just scratch and claw their way because they haven't quite found themselves, and maybe by the middle of the year that's when they're kind of clicking on all cylinders, so be it. And so that's why, to me, it is crucial for this Bears team to get off to a hot start because they're playing a rookie quarterback right out the gate.
How important is week 1?
it's the most important, at least to me, but I do this every year. So I want to give a shout out to our diehards. You can become a diehard at allchgo.com/diehard. And when you sign up, you get a free shirt right out the gate. You get discounts on any future shirts. It's no better time to become a diehard than right now. You get exclusive written content. We're going to be giving that to you all training camp long. And you get discounts on our events, including our tailgates, which will be featured every single home game at the corner of Wabash and Cermak. You can get those tickets at allchgo.com/events. You don't have to be a diehard, but if you are a diehard, you get discounts on those events. So we have officially reached overtime here on the CHGO Bears podcast. Hit that like button while you hang out for just a few more minutes. Definitely wanted to talk about training camp. With it just being around the corner, tickets went, quote unquote, on sale. They're free this morning, and they get released on Ticketmaster. And for all of us fans that are in the chat or watching here, for those that are trying, understand how hard this process is. Long gone are the days of Bourbonnais, where they had an unlimited capacity. Yeah. You could have 15,000 fans show up on the first day of camp and try to trample Jay Cutler for an autograph like he's a member of the Beatles, which I witnessed firsthand. They had to build barricades, after the first day of camp when Jay was there. But now it's at Hallis Hall, and I think the full capacity there is only like 1,800 fans, which is significantly less than what Bourbonnais had allowed. And so now we're all left to try to fight for these 12 open practices at Hallis Hall. And I definitely have seen a lot of fans in the chat frustrated with the process. Basically the process goes, you get put in a waiting room 15 minutes before they're released at 10 a.m. Then you get put in what they call a queue. And now there's a line you have to wait in, and some people get in faster than others. Some people are waiting behind 800 to 1,200 people. And so it varies. I've seen some people on Twitter that got 4 practice dates, and then I've seen a lot of fans that got 0. I know my mom and my wife both tried to get tickets. They only got 1 day.
Sure.
And then, like I said, they didn't get any days, I should say. And that was different. Last year, my mom was able to get 2 or 3 days. And so, obviously the hype of the Bears has and Ben Johnson's got a lot of Bears fans trying to go. But it's definitely a frustrating process.
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I went to Platteville. As a young person in the media, I went to Bourbonnais, and then took my kids and my wife to Hallis Hall. And I think all 3 were positive experiences, and I do think there's a benefit to having it at Hallis Hall, not only for the team, but I do think fans being that close to Hallis Hall and being able to go into the Walter Payton Center and participate in that stuff there and feel closer to the team, I think there's value in that. It is unfortunate that you can't have more people like at Bourbonnais where you could just line them up. But, that's it too. I think it would be nice if the fans that wanted to get to go to one day could, and unfortunately that may not be the case, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll encourage anyone that wasn't able to get tickets to Hallis Hall, or even if you wanted to go to more days than you got. In 2 days, I believe, that's when Family Fest tickets go on sale, which are not sale again. I think they're free. They hold a Family Fest at Soldier Field, which is a training camp practice. And obviously the stadium holds 62,000 fans. So anybody that wants to go to Family Fest at Soldier Field can witness a practice at the very least. No, you can't go to Hallis Hall. But I encourage anyone to take advantage of that, especially if you have family and young children, because they do a lot of interactive stuff outside the stadium. And if you're someone that wants to take your kid to Soldier Field, but you don't feel comfortable taking them to a game because of all the crazy fans that are in there, and there's a lot of drinking going on and a lot of stuff that, it's kind of dangerous for kids to be around at times. You take them to Family Fest, you take them to a preseason game, which are much more attainable. The frenzy of the crowd isn't as bad, and it's much more of a attainable thing to execute. It's cheap. You're not spending a lot of money, and you can kind of have a day where they can experience the Bears at Soldier Field. So I definitely would encourage that. The other thing I would say is, I've heard a lot of fans say, or not fans, I've heard a lot of former players say that they would prefer it to be at Bourbonnais because of the way they experience training camp. The Bears moved it to Hallis Hall, not for the fans, for the logistics of the team. They wanted them to be able to train as best as they could when you go to House Hall, you can see all the amenities, the upgraded facilities. They have a big garage door where it shows the weight room and how when they come out on the practice field, a lot of guys are coming out of the weight room. At Bourbonnais, you don't really have that.
Right.
You're playing. What
was the Bears' record last year?
Right.
So, as long as they win and they're doing well, then it's fine that it's at House Hall.
Right.
But if they're not winning and they're a losing team and the reason they're there is to benefit the players and their development and make it, convenient on all of that for breeding a successful culture, then it makes sense. But if they're losing, I think that's when you're going to hear more of a negative sentiment from fans.
And Gary is correcting me in the chat saying Family Fest is not free. Well, I think the tickets are like $5.
They're affordable.
I think they're either $5 or $10.
Crystal's saying they're $10 a ticket or $35 for a family of 4 using code FAMILY.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Crystal. So once again, Crystal said $10 a ticket or $35 a ticket for a family of 4. Use the code FAMILY to get that discount for a family of 4. So not a huge cost there. Obviously a lot cheaper than going to a regular season football game. You get to enjoy all the things. The other thing I wanted to say is, and somebody pointed this out, was maybe when they finally do build this new stadium, that instead of having it at House Hall, that they build some kind of a practice facility. Because I know when you see some of the training camps around around the country, that there is a specific training camp facility that fans can go to, and they have big bleachers and setups. So maybe when they build Arlington Heights, because we all know that's where they're going to end up, maybe they do build some kind of practice field that is specific for training camp and open practices that'll be able to have more fans in there, and then they can monetize the crap out of it and get all our money, because that's ultimately one of the bigger goals. But who knows? Obviously the Bears aren't going to build a new stadium for another 15 years, so I don't think it's anything we're going to have to worry about anytime soon.
No, I don't think so. But, even more reason, if you're not able to get to training camp, whether you were planning to or not, to watch CHGO Bears podcast, to listen to the CHGO Bears podcast, to become a diehard, to read the content. We've got Adam Hogan, Patrick Norton. We've got Mark Carman and Greg Braggs Jr. I mean, we've got really great content.
Yep. Lance Briggs and Jerry Azum will be breaking it down weekly with me.
Corey Wooten will be back during the regular season as well, so you'll get some of him. Maybe we'll talk to him during the training camp, have him come on and be a guest or something. But what I'm getting at is this. I think we appreciate all of you, and we know you appreciate the Bears team, and I appreciate you being supporters of CHGO. And this is the time, guys. Like, we are right there. It is. We are a week plus away from them being at House Hall reporting, and then it's go time.
Yep,
it's great.
It's exciting. It's exciting. So, sorry to those of you that weren't able to get the tickets for training camp at House Hall. I know you're frustrated, but as Jake said, we're always trying to give you a window into all those things. I know there's a lot of people that don't live around here. They live. Some of them live around the world. They live in Australia. Yep. They're in our chat every day, Switzerland and Europe and everything else. So we always just try to give you all the views and the insights that we see and bring it back to you here on CHGO Bears. So we'll be doing that all season long, and we appreciate everybody's support. And if you ever go to a game, make sure you come to our tailgates, and you will not regret it, because it's as fun. It's the most fun way to pregame for a Bears game there is. Even if you're not going to the game, there's some really nice bars down the street. You can hit up our tailgate, and so we're going to always make sure we have fun. We're going to be doing some live events this year, so stay tuned for those updates. I will not update them right now because I don't want to put Jake on the spot. But then also, like we mentioned in our ad read, I'm going to be at Windy City Smokeout starting tomorrow. We're going to have a whole group of people from CHGO Sports. We're going to have a tent there, so make sure you come and find us. We're going to be doing some fun giveaway opportunities, so come find our tent. Come say hi if you're at the Windy City Smokeout for barbecue and country music and all the fun in the sun down at the parking lot at the United Center. I'll actually be there Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, so if you find me, maybe I'll buy you a drink as well. So we appreciate everybody tuned in. Thank you to Jake. You got anything else?
No, the next time you'll see me, we'll either be at a tailgate, or if I force Braggs to let me come on to like Bears After Dark after a Bears win or something like that.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, I'll just continue to hold down the fort. We look forward to Mark Carman jumping back in. Adam Hogue will be getting off vacation here soon, so we're excited to bring him back into the fold, and we're doing all our thing. Tomorrow, you'll have a Bears After Dark coming to your channel and your podcasting wherever you listen on audio version with Jerry Azuma and Lance Briggs, featuring an interview with Jason McKee that went a solid hour.
Wow.
And they really were trading some stories and talking about the current Bears and everything else. So we continue to bring you some great coverage here. Once again, thank you to Eric Kramer for giving all his insights today. Hopefully the Bears can break some of his records this year. Thank you to Steven, as always, for producing. He did a great job sitting in the host chair yesterday. And thank you, Jake, for holding it down and meatballing it up with me today.
Yeah, thank you. And the shout out to one of the greatest running backs in the NFL in the 2000s, Thomas Jones.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, Jason McKee cleared the way.
That's right.
For Thomas Jones. Crystal Simone bringing in a super chat to end the show, saying, great job today, guys. Braggs is out of the doghouse. Love you guys. That's right. I finally returned her phone call. We had a little talk yesterday, game plan for some content here going forward in the summer. But, you know, I love you, Crystal, and thank you for all your help as well and your support to this show. So, somebody asked, when am I going to be back on with Rank? I'm assuming I'm jumping on the Sick Podcast with Rank here later today. We appreciate him, as always, and all his contributions to what we do here. And I anticipate that he'll be on with us on Friday, and we'll do some fun things with that. I got some different ideas for Friday's show, so I'll keep you updated if Rank is going to jump on. He's always got a busy schedule, but I'm assuming he will be able to. So that does it for all my Midwestern goodbye rambling to end the show. We love you guys. Hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel, and we will catch you tomorrow on the CHGO Bears Podcast. Take it easy, guys.
Bear down.
Bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.